how can we ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits everyone? There's been obviously a lot of talk about AGI and what that means and all of these big companies working toward it. But should one company control AGI? And what about what it means for the rest of us, right? The good that it can do in the world. Well, we're going to be answering those questions and a lot more on today's edition of Everyday AI. One I'm very excited about because if you follow AI at all, you definitely know our guest for today, and it's going to be a great one. So thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, welcome to Everyday AI. This is your daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter, helping everyday business leaders like you and me not just learn what's happening in the world of AI, but how we can leverage it to grow our companies and our careers. If that's what you're trying to do, make sure you go to our website at youreverydayai.com. We're going to be highlighting the best takeaways from today's episode in our free daily newsletter, and I can already guarantee you there's going to be a ton of them. So make sure you do that. And if you want the daily news, that's going to be in there as well. All right, let's have our guest for today. I'm excited, and live stream audience, he needs no introduction, but I'm still going to do it. So please help me welcome to the show, Dr. Ben Goertzel, CEO of Singularity Net. Dr. Ben, thank you so much for joining the Everyday AI show.
Hey, thanks, Jordan. Good to be here.
All right. And yeah, to have the person who literally coined the term AGI on the show is a pleasure for me, and I'm excited to get into it. But maybe let's start at the end, Ben, and then we can rewind our way through it. How do we make sure that AGI benefits everyone and not just, one big tech company that may or may not discover it?
Yeah, that's obviously an important question, and kind of question some of us have been thinking about for decades, although it's now rising to greater and broader prominence. I mean, first of all, I'd say we don't ensure or guarantee anything, and that's just the way it is, right? Like when the cavemen developed agriculture, they couldn't ensure how that was going to go either, and the jury in a way is still out on whether we're happier than we were in the Stone Age, right? So and we didn't have guarantees when we launched the Industrial Revolution or the computer revolution and whatnot. So I think we are taking leaps into the unknown here without a guarantee, and that is what our species has done all along. That said, commonsensically, there seem to be some things we can do to bias the odds in a positive direction as regards the launch of advanced AI systems. I mean, one of them might be to start using AI for broader human benefit right now, instead of using it so much for killing people, spying on people, selling them stuff they don't need, running automated trading bots to extract money from retail investors into the bank accounts of large investment banks, say plagiarizing people's creative works and not giving them any compensation. So a start might be to take the AI systems we have now and use them for broader benefit, and that might set the initial condition for the emergence of general intelligences and super intelligences that are oriented toward broad human benefit, right? So the thing is, there's nobody sitting there in their office in a big tower overlooking the world thinking like, this is how we should be developing AI to maximize the odds of a beneficial singularity, right? Rather, what happens is AI is bubbling up and moving toward general intelligence from the incredible mess of the world economy that we all see around us. Like, for better or for worse, the AI that we're creating, it treats us the way we treat each other, and it's reflecting the whole chaotic mess of our society. And that's kind of what we're doing as we stir the mix of the internet and see what AGI bubbles up out of it.
And Ben, for more casual people in AI or people who just started, you've been talking about AGI longer than anyone else, right? You coined the term, you wrote your first piece of AI code in the mid 90s. So I'm curious, how has the definition of artificial general intelligence, how has it
Yeah.
changed throughout the
Well, first of
decades?
all,
And what does that mean?
I think I wrote my first AI code in 1980.
Oh, in
Actually,
the 80s. I was off by a decade. That's amazing.
yeah. I mean, I learned about AI in the early 70s when I was a young child, and I learned about concepts similar to what we would now call the singularity from a book called The Prometheus Project by the Princeton physicist Richard Feinberg. I think I read that book in 73. It had been published in, I don't know, 68 or something, right? So these ideas have been around a while. I bought a little Atari computer in 80 or something, and then taught myself to code and start trying to code AI. It had 16K of RAM, so you couldn't do too much, right? And then when the internet came out and the web became a thing in 93, 94, 95, I started to think about decentralized AI because the internet itself is decentralized, right? It's protocols, not platforms. So it seemed clear that with the internet, you had the ability to roll out AI where little bits and pieces of the thought process were in different places around the internet, and the intelligence sort of emerged out of all that. So while I started on AI in the early 80s, decentralized AI, you could think about that earlier, but once you had the web there to play with, it was like, wow, we can see how you would do this, right? I mean, you had actual protocols you could use to decentralize AI agents living in different sections of the internet. And I remember I was at a workshop on agent systems and agent-based AI somewhere in Australia in 96 or so. And I was giving a pitch on the internet as this sort of incubation ground for networks of autonomous AI agents. And, now the last couple of years, agents have finally become a big thing. But I mean, the ideas have been there a long time. It's just the computer hardware and the networking speed weren't there, right? And the same is true with what we would now call AGI, right? So, I mean, when I first read about AI in the early 70s, I was thinking about AIs that could think like people and ultimately be smarter than people. And in 2002 or so, I was trying to edit an academic book of papers on how to build real thinking machines rather than the more narrowly specialized problem-specific AIs, which the AI field had sort of drifted into over the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I was going to call the book Real AI, but I started to feel like that was a little bit too much of a sort of poke at people building narrow application-specific AIs, which are real. They're doing real things. They're some cases good things. So yeah, in the search for a better title for the book, myself and a bunch of the other chapter authors for the book could have brewed up AGI, artificial general intelligence. Actually, at first it was going to be GAI, general artificial intelligence, which was suggested by Pei Wang, a Chinese AI researcher, because in Chinese it goes that way, general AI. But yeah, that was gay, which we thought was not. I mean, while I'm a big supporter of the queer universe, it seemed like that wasn't the best acronym, right? So we went with the AGI instead. I later found someone had used that in an essay in like 97 in an essay on nanotech. So we weren't the first ones to use that term in our book or anything, but I think that book is what put it on the map. Then we had an AGI workshop in 2006, the first annual AGI conference in 2008, and we're doing the next one in Iceland, University of Reykjavik, in mid-August. So we've been sort of pushing forth that term and that meme. And what I meant by it from the beginning was AI systems that could generalize beyond their training and programming, at least at the vague level that people can, and ultimately more so. And since that time, and even in that initial book on AGI, which ended up being published in 2005, there's been attempts to mathematically formalize what do we mean by AGI.
Mhm.
But
And that one's interesting to me, right? Because I even, as I'm trying to learn more about AI, I go back and look at definitions from, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and it seems like it's always changing. So from the one that's probably been talking about it more than anyone else for the last few decades, when will you say, oh, yes, we've achieved AGI, right? Like,
well,
is there a
let me
mathematical?
define terms a little better, because I mean, AGI that's a natural language term. It's a vague term in the same sense that beauty, intelligence, or life or health are vague terms, right? And so if you try to mathematically nail down what is AGI, you come up with something that's fuzzy and graded rather than either or. So an example of the sort of mathematical definition you come up with is, say, the ability to achieve arbitrary computable reward functions in arbitrary computable environments. So that basically means you average over all things that a system might want to do in all possible environments. And you're like, on average, how good is this system at learning to do random things in random worlds, right? And that's, you can formalize that using a bunch of nice math, and you can vary it in different ways. Now, what you conclude, first of all, from this sort of very abstract mathematical conceptualization of AGI, first of all, you conclude like there is no dividing line, right? Like one system will be more generally intelligent than another, that will be more generally intelligent than another. Secondly, you conclude humans are not very generally intelligent, right? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, like I'm not very good at achieving a random computable goal in a random computable environment. Like I couldn't even run a maze in 750 dimensions, right? I mean, so I'm quite restricted in this broad scope of things. Now, probably a worm is even more so, and a rock is even more so, right? But then you conclude like the precise level of human general intelligence, our ability to achieve random goals in random environments to a certain level, it's kind of like looking at the running speed of humans and defining that as general running ability or something, or general racing ability. Because I mean, we run at a certain speed. It's faster than some species, it's slower than other species. We can build machines that can run way faster than us. There's nothing that magic about the speed that Usain Bolt can run at in the scope of the speed of moving in the whole universe, right? The human level AGI, to me, is a little bit like that. Like, I mean, there's a certain level at which humans can generalize beyond their programming and their training. And it's not a super magic level. It's just where we happen to be. Like, it's important to us, right? Of course, just like being able to run faster than all other people was important to Usain Bolt. It let him win a prize, and it would let him outrun other bad guys who want to clobber him, unless they're holding weapons or something, right? But in the scheme of the universe, like human level AGI or human level running speed are not necessarily that important. But we could look at it a little differently. Like, escape velocity is important on Earth, right? So it's not important in the whole cosmos, but I mean, it's the speed that lets you get off the planet. So you could say if humans are barely intelligent enough to build superhuman AI, then maybe, well, on the whole, our intelligence level is a bit arbitrary. Like, in that sense, we've reached a critical threshold. Like, given the materials available on our planet, maybe we've reached the minimum general intelligence level needed to build something smarter than ourselves. So my friend Jim Rutt, who's like a master entrepreneur, he was the CTO of Thomson Reuters and so forth. He liked to say humans are about the minimum possible general intelligence. Like, we're about as dumb as you could possibly be and still invent computer science and still figure out how to make super AI, right? I think it's kind of dependent on the resources at hand. Like you could have some planets where you could be dumber than humans and build a super AI, somewhere you'd have to be smarter. But this is all, it's a long-winded way of saying that when people talk about AGI, they're usually thinking about human level AGI. So they're thinking about something that can like generalize, take imaginative leaps beyond its experience roughly as well as people can. And that's important to us, of course. It's important economically, but it's sort of almost arbitrary from a computer science and AI view. And the other way that the notion of AGI has become confused in recent years is like Sam Altman says, wait, we already achieved AGI, right? And indeed, GPT 4.5 arguably passed the so-called Turing test, meaning it can fool humans into thinking it's human in a brief conversation. The thing is, LLMs achieve a great amount of generality in their discourse, but not by being able to generalize very well. They generalize mediocrely. I mean, it's impressive, but it has clear limits, as Apple researchers demonstrated in a paper that came out a week or two ago, which has gotten a bunch of discussion. The thing is, LLMs achieve a great deal of breadth because their training data is the whole fucking web, right? So they just need to leap a little bit beyond their training data in order to do a lot because their training data is so much. So that is a kind of generality, but it's different than having human level generalization ability, which is what. So I think AGI is a very broad thing. Human level AGI is a more particular thing, but what it should mean is the ability to generalize as well as humans can, rather than just to do a broad scope of stuff. And being able to do a broad scope of stuff certainly is an important ingredient. And I think it's part of what can help us get to systems that can generalize really well, but it doesn't get you there on its own.
So all of the big companies right now are spending countless billions of dollars, right, openly, trying to achieve AGI as those goalposts may be ever moving. What does that mean, right? Is it a bad thing if one company is the first to quote unquote, achieve that level of intelligence that you just spoke of? And if so, why is it important to have a decentralized version?
A few different questions here, and there's a lot of unknowns, right? So one question, Eliezer Yudkowsky and Robin Hanson in the futurist world have posed as sort of the time to FOOM. And what they mean there is, like, once you get a human level general intelligence, potentially it could be a quite short period until you have a super intelligence. Because a human level AGI, if it's as smart as an AGI researcher, it's also got the ability to rewrite its own code and to copy itself and experiment on those copies, right? So it seems like potentially human level AGI could be followed up not too long after by slightly greater than human level AGI, by a little more greater than human level AGI, bing, 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 until you've got super intelligence. So how fast is that bing, 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 bing? Like, is it a month? Is it 5 years?
Yeah.
Right? So if it's a month, then it may matter a lot who gets to AGI first, right? If it's 5 years or say 16 years, like my friend Ray Kurzweil thought, he thought we would get human level AGI in 2029 and super intelligence in 2045, right? If it's 5 or 16 years between human level AGI and super intelligence, it's less clear how much it matters who gets there first, because there's not that big a moat for anyone. Like, even if Tencent or Google gets there first, within a couple of years, everyone's going to be there. And then you've got this whole population of AGIs. You may have other problems like an AGI arms race or something, right? Or an AGI World War III, but you're not, it's not going to matter that much in terms of superintelligence who got to AGI first. But there's an unknown there of how long it will take for that intelligence explosion to enact itself. And in the grand scope of history, whether it's a month or 16 years, you know, those are all a very brief period in the scope of intelligence on Earth or even human history. But it does make a big difference in terms of whether the first AGI is also the last AGI before the singularity, right? So there's two reasons why it may matter who gets there first. One is if the time to FOOM is short, then the first AGI may be the one that self-modifies itself into a superintelligence, right? The other reason is if the time to FOOM is even like 3 or 5 years or something, I mean, then who gets to the AGI first may tell us what sort of chaos the world goes through during that transition, because I'm a big optimist about what happens once we get superintelligence. I'm not a Terminator guy. Like, I think by and large, the first superintelligence will probably be benevolent and compassionate to its creators, and it will take very little of its superintelligence resources to provide great bounty to its creator species. But I'm not as much an optimist about what happens geopolitically between the first AGI and the beneficial superintelligence that can provide great bounty for all of us with little effort. Like, what happens in that interim period may be a mess if a few large companies and associated military industrial complexes are in charge. And both of these are the reason I spent a bunch of time working on decentralized infrastructure for AGI. What I've been doing with SingularityNet and with the Artificial Superintelligence Alliance, into which SingularityNet merged with several other decentralized AI projects. I mean, I think if we can make the first AGI not just open source, but decentralized and controlled by a participatory network of software developers and server farm owners and compute owners and so forth, I mean, then I think we have better odds of getting an AGI that is doing beneficial things for more people at the time when it comes into being, which I think gives a better odds both in the case of a rapid FOOM and a slow FOOM scenario.
So you kind of alluded to it, and I do want to, after this, get to the benefits of AGI, right? What about the downsides? What if one company, right, and you like, there's all these big government contracts, and you kind of alluded to this, but what happens if that first iteration or declaration of AGI goes wrong?
None of us knows, and it depends on how it goes wrong, right? I mean, I think if we had a rational, benevolent, democratic world government, which is more and more of a laughing stock year on year, right, in every dimension, both the rational democratic part and the world part, right? It could well be a reasonable thing to say, let's slow down AGI development until we've better understood how to make the singularity come out well. It will be an ethical trade-off because AGI can cure death. It can cure world hunger, which we're egregiously failing to do. It can do a lot of good. On the other hand, if it goes wrong, it could do a lot of bad. And there would be a real ethical trade-off for this hypothetical, rational, democratic, benevolent world government to consider, right? So we're very, very far from that scenario, and apparently getting further, not closer, at least on a local year-on-year basis. So the default seems to be all-out AGI arms race between US and China, and with Xi Jinping possibly as the rational, benevolent adult in the room, right? So I mean, this is a in this sort of scenario, what happens is anybody's guess, right? Like clearly, if big tech in US or China makes a breakthrough to AGI first, they will have no choice to put that AGI in the hands of their corresponding military and intelligence establishment, which will use it to achieve some version of partial global hegemony for the corresponding great power. Now, the good news is neither Trump nor Xi Jinping nor Putin nor Tencent nor Yandex nor Google wants to kill everybody and leave the earth like a desiccated wasteland, right? Like, I mean, we have a fair bit in common as human beings, and one of which is like we want our species to continue, like we want the earth to be a reasonable place to live. We all want air we can breathe and water we can drink, and we all want to be able to have our kids and grandchildren live on and have a good time, right? So, I mean, while there are downsides, I mean, I would say that actual psychopaths who want to kill everybody are not the ones who are likely to develop AGI, right? So, yeah. I mean, what you're likely to see in this case is the early AGI is focusing more attention on making country A stronger than country B, or having company A sell more products than company B, and the actual good of our species and the birthing of a positive singularity. We're attempting to achieve that as a sub-goal of achieving domination for a certain company or country, right? And I mean, I think we can still get to a beneficial singularity that way, but you're going to wind up taking more risks and causing more damage en route than would really be necessary if you weren't trying to achieve the really important things as a sub case of helping this or that party to lord it over the other parties they feel they're competing with, right? And this devolves into a long list of special cases in terms of what does that AGI doing initially, right? But I mean, you can see the way things are going. Like post DeepSeek, the US VC community is more and more into AGI for robotics rather than just software. Well, you know, what's the most obvious use case for AGI robots, right? I mean, you can see it in the Middle East battle theater right now. Like those use cases are going to become mature before home service robots or medical robots, although in a way all of them will rise together, but the military case needs a lot less safety testing, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's a lot to worry about in the short term, even though clearly tremendous benefit also. I mean, if you look at, I mean, I myself am working on some robotics use cases for education and for medical and elder care robotics. And then in science and medicine, like the ability of AI to help you discover new therapies to combat disease and prolong life. I mean, along with all the other kinds of scientific discovery. Like my own main use of AI personally is with my researcher hat on. Like the way AI accelerates biomedical research or AI research is incredible. Like I don't think LLMs are the golden path to AGI. I think they can just be one component of sort of hybrid systems that put LLMs together with machine reasoning, evolution learning, other components. I don't think LLMs on their own can get us to AGI, although they can be part of an architecture. But on their own, they make me like 5 times as productive as a scientific researcher and an AI developer, right? So, yeah. I mean, it's incredible. We're already well past the point where AI tools are massively accelerating the advent of better and better AI tools, right? Which is one of the things that gives you a like, whoa, the singularity is near feeling in practice. So I would say even now, though AI is being developed in a corporate/military way, like the tools are helping with every kind of scientific research, good and bad, and adding a lot of acceleration.
Yeah, and you kind of there talked about some of the, obviously commercial or intended commercial outcomes that would come via AGI, and also geopolitical, and talking about some of the potential negative outcomes. But what about on the positive side, right? Might we see longer lifespans,
Absolutely.
medicines that
I
are
mean, for
available?
education, it's incredible. Like, so my 7-year-old son, Corksy, is super bright kid. Unsurprisingly, he's into math. He's a bit dyslexic. Like, he sees every letter or word backwards. So his reading is okay, but not as advanced as his math. So I mean, he can ask ChatGPT any question he has. It will answer him, right? So he's learned an incredible amount from having speech to text. And I mean, for these years when his dyslexia gets better and better each year. But I mean, like at his age, I was reading every encyclopedia I could get my hands on. He would do that too, but he reads slowly because of dyslexia. So just the fact that AI lets him ask in words any science question he comes up with, right? Like what who will win, a lion or a silverback gorilla? Why? What's the evidence, right? So I mean, just being able to, which of the dwarf planets has an atmosphere? Why doesn't that one have an atmosphere? Like, as a 7-year-old, being able to dig into whatever you want on your own time, even if your visual system makes you slow at learning to read. Like, I mean, this is amazing for education, right? And that's just learning at home after school, right? But school systems will be slower to adopt these technologies, but it will come over the next few years, right? So, and yeah, for biomedical research, I'm working in a project called Rejuve, and we're looking at trying to discover new longevity therapies. And again, LLMs are not good at discovering new hypotheses and therapies. Particularly, we have other AI tools within our Hyperon neural symbolic AI system that are better at that. What we've used LLMs for: take millions of data sets, literally from all around the world, that biologists put online, and normalize them all into a common form and suck them into a big AI knowledge graph, right? And it's ironic, but until LLMs, we were held back not from having, we had AI that could crunch biology data sets and come up with new suggestions for therapies and even automatically run lab equipment. But we were held back by data pre-processing. All these millions of biology data sets are in different formats, and they're not normalized the same way. And the row and column headers in the spreadsheets are hard to read. LLM sifts through all that. They can suck all these biological data sets into a standard form, so your other AI tools can analyze it, right? So this was totally not why they were created, but they're helpful for it anyway, right? Now the same tools will let US, Chinese, or Russian intelligence normalize all the random data on the internet about everyone in the world, so as to spy on them and take advantage of them in different ways, right? So it's the same technology that was just developed originally to be a chatbot turns out to be useful for managing data sets of all different sorts for good and for ill. And I mean, that's amazing in all sorts of ways, both on the back end, discovering therapies for people to take to prolong their lives, and on the front end, like giving tools that kids can use to self-educate, right? So I mean, but the scope of applications is exactly why, like, this is not gonna slow down, right? It's just making too much money for too many people and delivering too much value to too many people.
Yeah. Speaking of delivering value, you've delivered a lot in today's conversation. But as we wrap up today's show, what is the one most important takeaway that you want people to remember when it comes to this concept of creating in the path to an AGI that benefits everyone?
I think the most important thing for people to remember is that we are doing this. All of us are doing this together. Like the singularity, the emergence of AGI and superintelligence is not something being done by a few like Stanford graduates off in an office on the Sand Hill Road in Palo Alto or something. Like this is being done by the whole global economy cooperating together in quite complex ways. The story is not yet told, and there's loads of ways for all sorts of people to jump in and participate. I look like DeepSeek was a hedge fund out of Hong Kong. All of a sudden, they disrupted what everybody was thinking regarding how expensive it had to be to train AI models, right? And you know, I started in 2013 an AI development office in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and we've then pulled in hundreds of AI developers in Ethiopia to help build all sorts of super advanced AI tools. These people, you know, brilliant young guys, most of them have never been out of Ethiopia, let alone to Silicon Valley. And beyond tech work, I mean, podcasts like this one or blogs anyone creates, if they're telling the truth about how AI works and how it may impact different sectors, or even telling how people are thinking and reacting about these things. I mean, all of these things contribute to what our species is doing to create AGI and ASI. So I think we should all feel very empowered and feel like we are participants in building this crazy ass future, right? And there is no plan. Like that's one of the things I realized when I got about 10 years old. Like before that, I thought there were some people somewhere in the world who knew what the hell was going on and were pulling the strings and orchestrating things. Around age 10, I realized like, holy shit, nobody on this planet knows what's going on. Nobody is in charge, right? And my friend Leslie Allen Combs, a psychologist, gave a talk at our conference on beneficial general intelligence last year, and he ended it with a quote from Ram Dass. He said, like, relax, nothing is under control, right? And I mean, depending on your frame of mind, that's either a big relief or totally fucking scary. But the truth is, nothing is under control. It's open-ended. It's all evolving. We're all playing a role in it. And we can't calculate how big an impact any of us is going to have. Any of us could be having the critical impact, making the difference between a beneficial singularity and otherwise. It could be a blog post that you yourself write that influences some young kid to think about things differently and build something amazing that tips the balance into a beneficial singularity.
Such an insightful, eye-opening, and exciting conversation. Dr. Ben Goertzel, thank you so much for joining the Everyday AI Show. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. If you missed anything, it's all going to be on our newsletter. So thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, please go to youreverydayai.com. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you back tomorrow and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
All right.